All right, on this episode of Bouts Talking Bouts, excited to be speaking with an individual who has a big tilt going at Unified MMA 38. The heavyweight championship is on the line. Christian Larsen going to be taking on Jared Kilkenny. That goes September the 27th, and I have Jared on the show today. How's your day going so far there, Jared?
Super fantastic. I appreciate the call.
Yeah, for sure. I'm wondering how the training is going on and everything like that, because it seems like you're always working with some top-notch guys. I mean, the Lethbridge gym, very well regarded. A lot of guys coming through there, obviously the legendary Lee Meehan and a lot of great sparring partners too. So who are you putting in the work with ahead of this big fight here?
Well, a lot of the guys' names that you mentioned are always part of the program. I've been lucky to be associated with Lee Meehan in his program in one way or another since I started this MMA journey. And I mean, he'll go down in Canadian MMA Hall of Fame for sure. And the fact that he's still out there competing says and speaks volumes about him. And just the number of athletes that he's put through 2 high-level fights or into the UFC for such a small gym from a small city is kind of unheard of. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm lucky to be able to soak it up. And it's just lucky for me that he's also heavyweight, so we get to bang it out in the gym a little bit too, and that's probably the best way for me to learn. I'm a little bit stubborn, so it's great.
I'm also noticing Sheldon Dahl has a big title fight on the card as well. How is it to be training with people who have such high-stakes fights going on the same night?
How is it to train with Sheldon Dahl? Well, I'll be 100% honest, it's terrible. The guy hit so hard. And he's just he walks into the gym and it just seems like Eye of the Tiger comes on over the loudspeaker and everybody knows that the tone is changing. It's getting real and it's getting serious real quick. I've never seen a fighter with focus like that guy has. And he's just so well-rounded and so aggressive in all areas that when you think you're in your comfort zone, he's making you uncomfortable. And then when he's in his element, it's even more uncomfortable. So it's just varying degrees of terrible when you're sparring or rolling with Sheldon. He's just a genuine prospect and a great partner to have, as much as it sucks.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine you get some of that varying degrees of terrible training with guys like, Arjun Buller and Roy Nelson, which you have done in the past, even as recent as November. Have you been doing any kind of cross training in that sense too, going out and going Vegas or anything like that?
Recently, I've been staying home a little bit more. I am in Medicine Hat quite a bit too, and I was actually lucky enough to find a gentleman here. He was a college athlete, moved here from Brazil. He's 6'7", 270 pounds. His name's Pietro de Andrade, and I promise this kid will be a world champion. For me to get sparring rounds with him and with Brian Crow, who's 6'6" and 240 pounds, to be the small guy in the gym is something that I've never really had. So between Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, I've got 2 great little camps going. But yeah, as mentioned, I was lucky enough to go out and train with Arjun. And the first thing I learned there was the importance of wrestling. He was able to suck my soul just with top pressure and just the appropriate usage of body weight. So it just gave me a great understanding of where I needed to improve in that regard. And when you fly out to Vegas to train with Roy Nelson and all those guys out there, it's nothing but a learning experience. I mean, getting rounds with him and Tim Johnson, Ray Sefo, Francis Ngannou, Brad Tavares, some up-and-comers. It's just every day is a learning experience, but it's always a positive environment. You still keep track of those guys. I still talk to them quite a bit. And I think after winning this belt, I'm going to go down to Vegas and get some rounds with Roy before his rematch with Frank Mir.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. So good that you sort of clarified things on that end. But one of the things that I've also, kind of noticed is that there seems to be a great measure of respect between, guys out of Lethbridge that really train heavy with mixed martial arts and also, guys out of Edmonton. Anytime I've seen CMC linked up with someone from Shaved Bears for a fight, which, we have that going on here as well, that kind of dynamic. It seems like there's a very tangible, just mutual respect amongst both sides. Is that kind of a similar sentiment as you head into this fight against Christian Larsen, who's, kind of representing Shaved Bears in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, if you look at the stable of athletes coming out of Edmonton and specifically the Shaved Bears, they're just all killers. They're all heavy hitters. I mean, I had a great tilt with Christian Larsen, as we know, back into 2017, and he came back and had a couple notable wins and wants to get that back. So there's nothing but respect. It's there's no animosity there. I think he's currently ranked number 3 in Canada, and I was sitting there at one point in time, so I'm happy to be able to go and fight for that spot and get this gold. And then when you talk about guys like Tanner Boser, I mean, you stand in there with him, you throw leather for 4 rounds. I didn't come away with a win, but I came away with a whole new respect for his style of fighting and the things that he's able to do in the ring. It's a great crew up there, and as far as fighters go, they're not the kind of guys that are going to duck and run from fights. They're fighters, and I think it really shows with how they perform in the gym and the way they carry themselves outside of the ring.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like there was respect, for their, Tanner's efforts and everything like that. But it also seemed like there was like this confidence you gained from the fight in a way because it got into the championship rounds and the cardio was still there and everything was still firing off on that. And so it could lend itself well to, getting into another championship fight too.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's something that really plays well in my favor. I mean, I was disappointed in the stoppage, but I've gone back and watched the fight a little bit obsessively from start to finish, and there was some great takeaways. I mean, for me to still have gas in the tank going into those championship rounds was great. I felt great at that time. And then if you take that consideration and you add it to the fact that as soon as I could walk after the Bowser fight, I was back in the gym. So essentially I've been in camp since I fought Bowser. And I think that I look back at how I felt then, and I'm just already twice as far. I've hooked up with a gentleman named Shane here at Temple Fitness in Medicine Hat. He's become my strength and conditioning coach 3 days a week. And he just does horrible, awful shit to me. But the results are just unbelievable, and they're tangible from Monday to Wednesday. I feel the difference. Like even today we were talking, and he asked very specific questions about where my body's at. I give honest answers, and it kind of clicks. I'm like, holy shit, this is working. It's a little bit disappointing in the sense that Lee's been trying to get me to do this exact same stuff for probably about 10 years. But, it takes me, I'm a slow learner, like I said. Sometimes getting my ass kicked is the easiest way for me to learn something.
And is that kind of rooted in the thought that you articulated on social media a little while ago, where you were talking about the concept of the winged serpent, just in the sense of like if you have a modicum of like strength training and weight training in conjunction with, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu acumen, you become essentially, a snake with wings kind of thing. Is that kind of like what you're talking about there? Is that like a similar like thing that bolsters that approach then, like with the, regime you're talking about there?
Absolutely. I think that they represent each other perfectly. The winged serpent, speaking in just strictly jiu-jitsu terms, is you don't teach a big man jiu-jitsu because it's like giving a serpent wings. Well, now if the big man knows jiu-jitsu and now the big man has cardio, he has wings and he also has teeth, claws. I want to have every weapon available to me. I want to have every tool in the toolkit. And I think in my old age and in my veteran years, I'm slowly checking off those boxes that I probably should have checked off earlier. But age is nothing but a number, and records are for DJs. So let's go out and get this gold.
Yeah, and just on like a curiosity level, like would something like combat jiu-jitsu interest you at some point? I know Lee has put on some combat jiu-jitsu exhibitions and some bouts for his Rumble in the Cage cards there. Is that something that would intrigue you, at some point down the line maybe?
Oh, absolutely. There's all kinds of things. Like Lee's an amazing coach, but he's also an amazing manager. And just different types of things. We've discussed combat jiu-jitsu. He's got my name in for the Leftweight Championship in Burma.
Oh, cool.
My name's in for some bare knuckle fights. Like, I just want to fight, bro. It's like, let me bang. It's awesome. I've been quietly trying to keep the fact that I'm also a killer on the ground under wraps, but it seems to be slowly getting out there. The last kind of nail in the coffin, for me, was that cardio. And so now I know that's good. Like, as even though I didn't get the win that I wanted on the last fight, the cardio was there for 4+ rounds, and I had gas in the tank, looking to finish in the 5th. So with that in my back pocket, it just seems like I'm bulletproof. Confidence is over the moon. I know Chris is a heavy hitter, and he's coming from that amazing camp. But I'm at the stage of my career where I only want to fight tough guys. I can only get up for tough fights. If you want to give me a bum, I'm not going to come in looking the way I should and fighting the way I should. So this is a tough fight, and it's easy to get up for because, if that guy touches you on the chin, you're going to wake up looking at the lights, looking for your mom. It's not a good situation. You got to be in shape, and you got to be ready to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got a good headspace, and I was actually gonna, ask about that. But it seems like, coming off of a loss, you learned a lot from. Now you're back in the seat for the unified title. Like, there's an immediate sort of redemption dynamic. So it really seems like you're firing off on all cylinders because it is kind of like a unique sort of situation in some regards. But it sounds like you're, laser focused on the task at hand. But I also had noticed that you were off for, almost like 6 years, starting around 2011, and then, since returning off of that Larson win, you kind of been, racking up some wins and getting back on track. What was the reasoning for that hiatus, and what utility did it have for, I guess, like your mixed martial arts career?
The first thing that comes to mind when I think about the hiatus is just miles. Those were miles that I wasn't putting on my engine. So even though I had time off, which basically, to tell you the truth, was I suffered a really bad break in a fight against Moise Rambon from France top team. My arm broke below the elbow, both bones. My wrist was touching my elbow. And that wasn't the worst part of it, but I used that injury to take as an excuse for time off, and I used that time off for nothing but eating and drinking, and I kind of fell out of the sport. So when I finally did decide to make that comeback, it was a lot harder, but at the same time, I realized how far I had come, and I didn't want to piss away the opportunity that Lee was giving me the second time around.
What do you think was there like a big turnaround moment? Like, did you have any kind of epiphany where you're like, okay, I gotta maybe indulge a little less and get back on track? Or was it kind of just like a gradual getting back into it and then you just happen to be in the thick of it again?
Well, I mentioned a couple of times I'm a slow learner in the interview and a thick skull and other places. I'd like to take credit and say that there was something that I realized or dawned on me, but the truth of it is, it was just the love of a good woman. I got married, and my wife Chloe's always been there for me. We have a 12-year-old daughter that we raised together, and when you have a family, it just puts things in a different light. You want to take things seriously. You want to indulge a little bit less, and you realize you've got people watching it all the time, you know what I mean, in a good way, and supporting you there for the good and the bad, but you want to make sure that there's a lot more good than bad, and you want to be a beacon of, inspiration, not a gray cloud over the family, right? So you want to do well, you want to perform well, and you can't tell your child to do her best if you're not doing the same.
Yeah, absolutely. That must be like, so much inspiration and so much fuel for like doing what it is that you're doing. Cause yeah, like you said, you gotta, lead by example. It's hard to just say, oh yeah, do your best, put yourself out there in this certain regard, and then maybe you're not doing as much as you can on your end. So that's cool, man.
The classic do as I say, not as I do. And sometimes that works for certain people, but if you're not walking the walk, it's hard for me to listen to what you're saying, right? So if I'm that way, I know that my daughter and wife, definitely appreciate it if I was doing what I was saying and just not just speaking down from a high horse, right? So it makes me want to perform at my best and do my best. I know that my time in the sport is definitely limited. Although when you look at Lee Mean still fighting, it kind of gives you a hope that you can fight forever. And man's amazing, right? So, but at some point it's going to come to an end, and I want to make sure that I've given my all. I don't want to leave anything in the cage. I want to have nothing but positive memories and no regrets.
Absolutely, man. And we've been talking about CMC and as far as like how high level they are as martial artists and everything, but you talk about how it's like a good, session every time you're there pretty much. It's like a room full of comedians. Just it seems like there's that, friendship and camaraderie that exists between like solely you guys are being training partners. How cool is it to have that, combination of, being friends with the people you're training with and there being a pseudo lighthearted kind of dynamic to it, but you're getting in that hard work and, kind of learning at a high level. I imagine it helps, sustain that motivation for learning and everything like that and all the hard work.
It makes it a heck of a lot easier to quote unquote go to work every day when there's laughs to be shared, right? I mean, if you just go in and you spar hard and you go hard and you don't develop those relationships with your teammates, you might be getting good rounds, but you're dragging ass every time you're going there. You're going in with a chip on your shoulder and hoping to get through it, knowing that somebody's going to try and take your head off. When you know you're all on the team and you're all fighting towards the same goal, it makes it a little bit easier to get in there. And then when everyone's laughing and joking and having a good time, in between rounds when everyone's short of breath, it just makes it easier to get one more in. You know that you're all on the same page and you're all fighting towards the same goal. Whether you have a fight or not, you're there for everybody else. It's CMC is just one of those perfect storms of awesome where it's families and fighters and people from the street and other athletes coming in from other sports, and we all just support each other. And it's one of those things that is rare in MMA, that to have such a strong team but not have any ego at all. It's a completely egoless environment, and it's truly unique in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of like creating like a nurturing yet enjoyable environment, it seems like you do that with like the U17 basketball team that you coach. And that seems like something that's another passion of yours. How important is it to have something like that in your life as well? Just like another athletic endeavor you can kind of like allocate your focus to as well, just as like a means of decompressing from what I imagine is, very stressful with the MMA lifestyle sometimes.
Oh man, coaching basketball. I mean, basketball was my first passion. I played college hoops before I got into football and eventually got into fighting. So it's always been a love, but just the same thing, coaching these high school boys and these U17 boys, it just kind of goes back to the same thing as your family. It becomes an accountability thing. You want them to give their all and push, and you're urging them to give their all in the sprints. They know they suck. You know it sucks, but you're urging them to give every last drop. It makes it easier for you to go and do the same when you're in your training sessions, right? You don't want to be one of those, like I said, just do as I say, not as I do kind of guys. You want to give your all because that's what you're asking of everybody else. And to know that they're looking up at you or looking to you for guidance, it just makes you want to be a better person in every aspect of life, especially in your training.
Yeah, it seems like you're quite an athletic guy too. I noticed for a Throwback Thursday there, you had moved out to Victoria, and we're kind of like recalling the days of playing football for the Rebels and getting her going with the Raiders and everything like that. So yeah, it just seems like you got a lot of athletic endeavors going on all around. I also thought it was funny that you said you were pretty much a better looking poor man's Braidwood, which was pretty funny. Like a little shot at Adam Braidwood.
At Braidwood, the only difference between us, as far as I'm concerned, is that he's allergic to shirts, and he has a better hairline. But Adam's a great guy. We chat all the time. I'm looking forward to getting out there and getting some rounds with him too. I know he's staying busy and training hard, and to have another football kind of stud doing big things in the boxing world here in Alberta and BC is just, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I noticed you had a boxing record as well, and it seems like you mentioned like Lee Me and having like you in the running for potentially some bare knuckle, like some Lathway and stuff like that. But it's just like a general kind of thing. Like down the line, would you like to maybe take another boxing bout and get things going on that end?
Absolutely. Truthfully, I've chatted with Joel Mills, who runs a boxing club out of Tabor. He's had some high-level fights and some high-level fighters, and he's doing some cards with Eric de Guzman out at Tia Vista. And I kind of said, once the dust settles from me going and getting this belt, and contractually, as long as it's okay with Unified and everybody else, I'd love to stay active and get back in there and do some boxing. Anytime I can get in the ring and get experience, whether it's MMA or boxing or Muay Thai or kickboxing, or left way or combat jiu-jitsu, it's only going to make me a better athlete or a better combat athlete across the board. And it all just adds up as experience. And if you love what you do, then why not take those opportunities?
Yeah, for sure, man. And I always tend to ask like the guests I have, like what sort of music that they train to. Like, I mean, it seems like based on going to some Rumble in the Cage shows, Lee Meehan's got some pretty eclectic taste in music. So, what do you generally prefer music-wise when you're training over there, or do you not really care so much? Because I know some guys don't necessarily like have a vested interest in whatever genre's playing, kind of thing.
Well, man, it's that's the first fight at CMC, is deciding who's going to run the stereo for the session. Music is, usually it's Josh Hines. He gets his way. He's got a pretty good taste. Spencer Hovey once in a while, another one of our stud athletes. But music plays a huge part. If we're drilling or we're repping, we keep music down so that we can hear what coach is saying. We don't want to miss any of those nuggets of awesome, right? But if we're sparring and rolling, the music definitely helps. It's kind of a widespread. I mean, I ran the playlist there on Thursday, and we had a little bit of Devilment Down to Georgia, followed up by by a little bit of Genesis, followed up by some Phil Collins. So it's all over the map. It's really anything that gets me pumped up for whatever reason, whether it's the hair on the back of your neck or a good beat. Sometimes it's lyrics, but everybody's a little bit different there. But no matter what the music is, it definitely adds a level to the training for sure.
Yeah, because I noticed in like a top MMA news feature you did, you shouted out Metallica and Lil Wayne as being some acts you really were enjoying. So I imagine it gets interesting with the tunes there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster of musical flavors. It's for one song might be a Metallica with some symphony with no lyrics, and then the next song might be like a Lil Wayne with Drake track, right? So it's there's no real kind of pattern to it, but if it gets us moving and it gets me fired up, it's going on. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You've been really great with your time. Is there anything though that you wanted to maybe add as a parting thought as we're sort of wrapping things up here?
No, I'll take that. Any chance I can get to thank my training partners, whether it's in Medicine Hat at SACA and Temple Fitness with all the guys there, or if it's back home in Lethbridge at CMC. I would be nothing and be nowhere without the guys that are training, around me. So I want to thank them, and of course, coach and manager Lee Mean. He's been amazing to me my whole career, and of course, thanks to Sonny at Unified for having me on the card. And check us out if you can't make it to the beautiful River Cree in person. Make sure you pick it up on the FITE TV app, and there will be blood, and it's going to be a good go.
Yeah, it's going to be a great heavyweight title tilt going on September 27th, and really appreciate the time there, Jared. Best of luck with the rest of your preparations, and enjoy the rest of your day too, man.
I appreciate it very much. Thank you.